What's up, you sick mother bluffers? In this one, we're headed to the online streets as I play a tournament on Pokerbros. The buy-in is 33. Oh yeah, you can't say because Pokerbros is technically a free money app, and if I mention in any way, they could ask me to take this video down. Anyway, I joined this tournament just before the end of registration. Let's get into it. We joined the action at level 14. Blinds are 1k, 2k with a 300 ante, and I get dealt 6-5 suited in the low jack. Action folds to me, and I decide to go with the limp here. The cutoff calls, and the big blind checks their option. We go 3 ways to a flop of 6-5 king, 2 hearts. I flop 2 pair. Big blind checks. I think I could go either way between a check and a bet. Betting is probably the best option, but this time I opt for a check, and the cutoff checks as well. The turn is the 6 of diamonds, giving me a full house. Let's go. Even better, the big blind leads for half pot. With 2 flush draws, I could probably go for a raise here, get max value from said draws before they potentially break out on the river, but I decide to just smooth call and the cutoff folds. Heads up to the river, which comes to 8 of hearts, completing the front door flush draw. The big blind bets half pot again. I go all in, and the big blind calls with queen 7 of hearts for a rivered flush, but it's no good, and I take a nice pot down. At the 2k, 4k level, I get dealt king 9 suited in the hijack. I open for 8,000. Small blind is the only player to make the call, and we go heads up to a flop of ace 8 jack 2 hearts. I flop the nut flush draw. Small blind checks to me, nice c-bet for just over half pot, and the small blind calls. The turn is the queen of hearts, giving me the nuts, and on this card, the small blind decides to put me all in. I snap call, and they show jack 10 with the jack of hearts for a flush and straight draw. Unfortunately for them, they're drawing dead, and I take another nice pot down. At the 3k, 6k level, I get dealt ace 10 suited in the hijack. I open to 12k. The button and big blind make the call, so we go 3 ways to a flop of 10, 3 king, 2 clubs. I flop second pair with the nut flush draw. When the big blind checks to me, I c-bet for around the third pot. The button calls and the big blind folds. Heads up to the turn, which comes the ace of diamonds, improving me to 2 pair. I bet 2/3 pot, which is a little bit awkward. I think with my stack size, I could have gone for an overbet shove. It's not an issue though, as the button puts me all in. I obviously make the call, just hoping not to see my opponent turn over queen jack or ace king, even though I can still beat those hands with a club on the river. They actually turn over the best possible hand for me, ace 10 of spades. They cannot win with this hand, only chop, but I'm free rolling them if a club comes, and the river comes, the 6 of clubs, and I get a huge double up. What a start to this tournament. Let's go. At the 5k, 10k level, I get dealt pocket 9s in the small blind. There's a min raise from under the gun before the low jack 3 bets to 80k. Sitting on just under 30 bigs with 5-minute levels and still a lot more poker to go before we make the I decide to 4-bet all in, hoping neither of my opponents have an overpair. I get the initial raiser fold, but the low jack makes the call, and they show ace king offsuit. They got me covered, the pot is huge, so let's win this flip. Flop comes 5-3-5, excellent flop for me. The turn is a 10. Can I dodge the ace or the king on the river? Yes I can, river's another 10. I take this one down, running good, and now sitting on a very healthy stack. At the 6k, 12k level, I get dealt pocket 8s in the cutoff. My opponent from the hand before, who's managed to crawl back up to around 5 big blinds, open shoves from under the gun. With almost 100k in the pot, I think my best option is to 3-bet jam and isolate the all-in player, hoping the blinds don't wake up with a hand worth calling with. Thankfully, the rest of the table folds, so I go heads up against under the gun, and they show king queen. Once again, flipping against this player, although it's me who covers this time, and we go heads up to a run out of ace 8 king. I flop them nearly dead. The turn is a 9, it's all over for my opponent. I river quads just for shits and giggles, and I take down yet another pot. Taking a look at the leaderboard, I'm currently sitting in second place without even taking the 33 add-on. There's 32 players left in the tournament, and 10 will make the Still, a long ways to go. Let's get back into it. At the 15-30k level, I get that pocket jacks on the button. The low jack, who is sitting on the big stack, is going to open things up with a min raise to 60k. The cutoff on the short stack, 3 bets all in. I have a very easy 4-bet shove here. Action folds back around to the initial raiser who folds, so I go heads up against the cutoff who shows ace 5 offsuit. I'm in great shape to pick up more chips as we go heads up to a run out of 9-7 queen 2 spades. I got spades covered. Turn is a queen. Can my opponent find an ace on the river? Hell no. Chips come my way, on to the next one. At the 20-40k level, I get dealt ace king in the big blind sitting on about 14 bigs, and things get a little spicy. Action folds to the button, who jams for around 11 bigs, and then the small blind 3-bet shoves, and they have me slightly covered. I snap call, and the button shows pocket 6s, the small blind shows pocket 10s. Can I find an ace or a king to almost triple up my stack? The flop comes deuce, ace, deuce, let's freaking go. All I have to do now is dodge a 6, but more importantly a 10, as that would end my tournament. The turn is a 5, and the river is another ace. I boat up and I win a massive pot. I am now chip leading this tournament with 16 players left, 10 players making the Let's deep run this thing. In this one, we're at the 50-100k level, and we've reached the There's 9 players left, and this tournament plays 8-handed, so we're actually on the final table bubble when I get dealt 10-9 suited in the big blind. Action folds to the button, who open shoves for barely 2 big blinds. Small blind, who is sitting on the big stack, actually makes the fold. Okay, I guess I'll do the dirty work then. I make the call, and the button shows ace deuce of diamonds. Coming from behind as we go heads up to a run out of 10-4 king, no diamonds, I take the lead. The turn is a queen. Can my opponent find an ace or a jack to stay alive in this tournament? Nope. I win yet another pot. My table breaks and we get moved to the final table where there's a hand in progress. Looks like action has folded to the button and they've got the 2 shortest stacks in the blinds. Small blind is actually all in for half an ante, so congrats on the ladder up, I guess. Anyway, the button decides to limp, maybe in an attempt to check it down with the big blind and knock out the small blind. But the big blind says, no way, Jose, and jams for just over 6 big blinds. Action is now back on the button and they make the call with pocket queens. What? They're up against ace 3 for the small blind and ace jack for the big blind. Everybody's rooting for queens to win. The flop comes 5 queen 9. The button flops both blinds close to dead. The turn is a deuce of diamonds, so it's over for the big blind. The river is a jack, and the button is going to take down both players. We get the Pokerbros final table animation, love to see it, and we're now 6-handed. I'm currently in 2nd place, but overall we've got a short stack player, the chip leader, and then myself and 3 other players fighting for 2nd place. Stack sizes are getting pretty shallow at this point, so my strategy is to try and chip up as much as possible from the button. Obviously, wait for a good spot to get it all in, and hopefully survive a couple of bust outs. The short stack busts shortly after. We're now down to 5 players. We've got the chip leader out in front, 2nd and 3rd sitting on 11 bigs, me in 4th, and the player in 5th with just 7 bigs. It's not much, but I can work with it. Once I get down to 5 bigs, I'll have to shove a pretty wide range of hands, but for now, I feel like I can sit tight, continue chipping up when possible, and possibly survive more bust outs. And that's what happens. The other short stack player busts. We're now 4-handed. I'm maintaining myself just under that 10 big blind mark, and as long as I can do that, I think I have a good chance of capitalizing on my opponent's mistakes and laddering up. We're now at the 120-240k level, and under the gun opened for 2.5x. I folded, and the chip leader now 3-bet shoves from the small blind. Action folds back to under the gun, who calls with queen 9 offsuit. That's kind of what I was talking about when I mentioned my opponent's mistakes. Admittedly, at this point, we're all very shallow stacked, but opening queen 9 offsuit from under the gun seems a little too ambitious for me. In any case, they're headed to a run out, and we're rooting for ace 5 here. The flop comes jack 6-3 rainbow. The turn is a 9. And the river is an ace. Let's go. We're now down to 3-handed. I've got 546 locked up. A few moments later, I'm now in 3rd place and down to 4 bigs, and my patience pays off as I get dealt pocket jacks on the button. Easy all in, small blind folds, and the big blind calls. They show ace king. It's a classic flip. Let's hold. The flop comes ace 4 jack. Let's freaking go. I flop them nearly dead. The turn is a little bit weird. It's another 4, giving me a boat, but giving my opponent outs to a bigger boat if an ace comes. The river is another 4, and I take this one down. Let's go. I'm now even stacked with the player in 2nd place. Going to fly through the next couple of hands at the 150-300k level, I open ace jack from the button and pick up the blinds. I open shove queen 9 suited from the button and pick up the blinds, and with this I now move comfortably in second place. A few hands later, the button open shoves for their last 3 big blinds, and the chip leader makes the call from the big blind. It's queen 6 versus 10-9, and we're rooting for 10-9. The flop comes queen 7-9, so it looks like the short stack is going to survive and actually take second place back. The turn is a 10! Let's go! No queen, 8, or 6 on the river, and we will be heads up. The river is the 4 of diamonds, and just like that, I make another 200 bucks, but I have an uphill battle ahead of me as I'm down to 4 bigs, and my opponent has an almost 8-1 lead. Let's go into this heads up battle. First hand, I fold 5 deuce on the button. Next hand, I fold 10 deuce to an all in. I then pick up pocket deuces on the button. I open shove, and my opponent makes the call with queen 9 suited. The runout comes jack 7. Not an ideal flop, as I could get counterfeited if another 7 comes. Turn is one of the worst for me. It's the 8 of spades. So now my opponent can win with any queen. 10, 9, 8, 7, or spade. I need to dodge exactly half the deck, otherwise it's all over. And the river is the 5 of clubs. I hold. Let's freaking go. What a sweat. Still a long ways to go if I want to catch up on my opponent though. The very next hand, I get dealt king queen in the big blind, and the button open shoves. I snap call, and the big blind shows 7-4 suited. To a run out we go. The flop comes jack, queen, jack with 2 diamonds. Why is it always a sweat, man? Come on, no diamond on the turn. No! I'm not drawing dead though. I can still win this with another diamond, and the river is the jack of clubs, which gives me a boat. Are you freaking kidding me? What a sick river. Wow. I somehow find yet another double up, and I'm starting to inch closer to my opponent. Let's go. In the next hand, I open fold 5 deuce. And then in the next one, I get dealt 10-9 suited in the big blind, and the button open shoves. Well, seeing as my opponent open shoved 7-4 suited just before, I guess I'm going to go for it. And my opponent shows 5-4 suited. All in and at risk as we go to the flop, which comes 7 ace king with 2 hearts. Oh, come on, man, not again. Turn is a 6 of clubs. My opponent now picks up an open-ended straight draw. I'm safe if an 8 comes though, as that would give me a higher straight. I need to dodge a 3, a 4, a 5, or hearts if I want to continue in this tournament. And the river is the king of spades. I double up once again, and not only do I catch up with my opponent, I am now chip leader, so now it's going to be my time to apply some pressure. In the next one, I get dealt jack 7 suited, and with deeper stacks, I would definitely go for a raise here, but we're both so shallow. I've been so patient, and I've grinded to finally be in the lead. I actually decide to let it go. I want to keep the chip advantage over my opponent and give myself a chance to bust them in an all-in situation. In the following hand, I get dealt 6-3 in the big blind, and my opponent just calls. I check back, happy to see a flop for free, and it comes 9 king 3 rainbow. I flop bottom pair. Now, this may seem weird after I just open folded jack 7 suited, but my plan here is actually to check raise. I've seen my opponent take plenty of random stabs in this tournament so far. I think that they would have shoved pre-flop with a king in their hand, so really the only thing I'm worried about is a potential 9, but that's a very small portion of their range versus all the other random hands they could be holding. I set the plan in motion by checking. My opponent takes the bait. They fire for half pot, and as planned, I 3-bet all in, praying to fade a snap call. No snap call from my opponent, but they seem to go in the tank. Please don't call with a 9. Please don't call with a 9. Please don't call with a 9. Yes! I get this one through, and I increase my lead on my opponent. In the next one, I open fold 8 deuce. Then I get dealt 9 deuce in the big blind, and my opponent once again just calls. They definitely seem to have lowered their aggression since I took the lead, and I'm not going to complain. Let's go see a free flop, which comes 4, 9, 5. I flop top pair. Looks like my opponent loves taking stabs in position when checked to, so I decide to go for a check, but surprisingly, they check back. The turn is good for me. It's 6 of hearts, which puts a whole bunch of straight and flush draws on board, but still no overcard to my pair of 9s. I know my opponent is pretty sticky though, so I want to charge them to see the turn. I overbet for 1.3 million into a pot of 900k. I expect the hand to be over right here and there, but my opponent makes the call. The river is the ace of diamonds, and again, I'm not too worried about this card as my opponent would have definitely shoved with an ace in their hand. I debate what to do here. Do I check and let my opponent bluff? Do I put my opponent all in and try to get a hero call from like a 4 or a 5? I'm not really sure, but ultimately I go for the latter. I put my opponent all in, and once again, I breathe a sigh of relief as I get no snap call. But once again, they go in the tank for what seems like an hour, and they finally make the fold. Let's go! The tables have turned, and it's now me who has a significant chip lead over my opponent. In the following hand, I open shove ace-5 from the button, and my opponent folds. In the next one, I get dealt king-9 suited in the big blind, and the button once again just calls. I raise all in, and they fold. I then get dealt queen-jack suited, picking up some momentum here. I open shove, and they fold. My opponent is now on the ropes with barely 2 big blinds left. It's time to finish him! And perfect! I get dealt pocket 7s in the big blind, and my opponent shoves. I snap call. They show king-queen. This is it. This is the moment. Can I hold and take this entire thing down? The run out comes 2-8-10 with 2 hearts. The turn is a 9, giving me an open-ended straight draw, but a jack would give my opponent the highest straight. If the river is not a king, a queen, or a jack, I will win this tournament. The river is the 3 of clubs. Let's freaking go! I win almost 1,200 from an initial buy-in of 33. I did not lose a single all-in all tournament long. What an absolute sick run good. This is the ultimate high for a tournament player, and after hours of stress and being all in and at risk so many times, I can now finally let it sink in, and I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit emotional. This concludes this episode. If you enjoyed this video and sweated every all-in with me, please smash that like button. If you want to see more of my content, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. It really means a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck at the tables, and see you in the next one.